time to make flying geese. And I'm going to show you how to make the flying geese scrappy, as well as how to make them. So I'm not going to be worried about directionality with these at all. I will post a video if you're making a not scrappy version and you have directional fabrics, how to deal with that. I've done a tutorial on that before, so I will repost that. But for scrappy, I do not worry about it at all. So here's what I'm going to do. On each of these squares, I'm going to be drawing a diagonal line, and I'm going to be using a hero marker. However, these lines are not going to show, so you can use a washable pen or even just a pen. I wouldn't use something super dark because if your fabrics are light, because you might see it through the fabric, but this is going to be on the back of the block. So if you just used a pencil or something light that's not a washable or heat sensitive ink, then that's okay. But I'm going to be using a hero marker, which just leaves an indentation in the block. These are very cheap. They're very useful. I like the one without the pointy back end because I'm less likely to stab my hand. So I'm going to start marking the diagonal lines on these. You can stack a few at a time. If you have trouble seeing the marked line and you're using a hero marker, stack fewer because the ones at the bottom, the line will be less visible. But I'm going to stack 4 at a time. And I'm going to use my ruler. And I'm going to line it up with the corners. And then I'm just going to go back and forth a few times with this. And you can see it has an indentation which marks the line. And the bottom one is more difficult to see, but with the sewing machine, the lower you go, the harder they are to see. That one is pretty hard to see. I'm going to redo that one. Okay, now I can see it. So I'm going to go through and mark all of those and all of these, and then I will start making my flying geese. Now that I've marked all of my squares, I'm going to be making flying geese for 5 small star blocks and flying geese for 10 large scale blocks. So I have set the squares aside so that I don't make too many. So what I'm going to do is take 2 not matching if you're making scrappy, or 2 matching if you're making not scrappy squares, and I'm going to line them up so that they align along the top here, and then take a second one, line it up here, and I want the marked line to line up here, and then I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch from that line on each side, and I'm going to do the same for the big squares. So I'll take one here and one here. Now I don't usually pin, but it is really important that they stay in place. So if you need to pin them so that they don't shift, then do that. I did give instructions on my blog for making oversized blocks, but these blocks will not be oversized, so we will not be trimming them. So take the time to make sure everything is lined up before you start sewing, and then make sure everything stays in place while you're sewing it. So I'm going to go sew those, and I will be right back. I have just finished sewing on my flying geese, so you can see the marked line down the middle here, and then a 1/4 inch on each side. So what I'm going to do now, make sure that you sew them right sides together. Forgot to mention that. It's not going to be super important which 2 you pair together, because these 2 actually will not be in any of the same blocks. So we'll worry more about that in the next step. So these 2 will not be in the same flying geese. So I'm going to line up my ruler with the corners, and I also like to make sure, it's kind of hard to see here, that I'm lining up the 1/4 inch line on my ruler with the seam I just sewed, just so I don't make a tiny seam allowance because I really don't like that. So I'm going to cut here carefully. And now I'm going to, after I've cut these all, I'm going to press them, and I like to press my seams open, but you can press to the side. Either way is fine. I think pressing the seams open helps distribute the bulk of the fabric so that they aren't as bulky, but you do your preferred method. Now that I have added another square to my blocks, I'm going to cut along the drawn line again. I'm going to connect this point with this point, and I'm going to line up my seam with a 1/4 inch mark on my ruler, and I'm going to cut. Each one of these will make 2 flying geese. I'm going to cut all of these and then press my seams, and then I'll show you the last step of making the flying geese. Okay, I have my cute little flying geese right here and my larger flying geese back here. I need to trim off the dog ears so that they don't have extra bulk in the quilt. So there's a couple of ways to do this. One is to line up your ruler with the flying geese. They should be, these small ones should be 2 by 3.5. I don't even really, I'm not really measuring because it should be the correct size, but you should, you know, check the size. So trim, trim, then flip it around, and trim and trim. Or what I usually do is just cut them with scissors. Just be really careful. Sometimes the top will be a little bit more uneven. Here's one that's a little bit more uneven. So you can see that the top isn't perfectly straight. So I'm going to look at that one with the ruler. So you want to make sure that this point right here is centered. So that should be 1.75 inches, and that it's also a 1/4 inch down from the top. That's ideal. If you have to cut it off a little bit, that's okay. Just keep going until you're all done. Same with the large ones. These ones should be 3.5 by 6.5. So the halfway point should be 3 1/4. This should be a 1/4 inch down. Looks good. Or you can just trim them using scissors. One more tip: when you finish trimming the dog ears off of a stack of flying geese, set your flying geese down in a nice stack. Make sure everything is flat. Put a ruler on the top, and then put something heavy on top of it. And then put something heavy on top of it. I can only find my camera. That'll work. It will help your seams stay nice and flat.